Hey everyone, so what you might notice about this video is that it is less ethereal, I look less angelic, glowy, etc. That's because I learned how to adjust my camera. Anyway, in this video I wanted to address trans allyship, because that came up in the questions. Just basically, if you have a friend, a partner, a child, a coworker, etc. who is trans, navigating the trepidation that may exist around interacting with that person. The number one advice I have is that that person did not change. Most of what changes is how you refer to that person and how that person might want to be referred to as. And I mean, a lot of people basically know names, pronoun, but this might also refer to, say, gendered situations. For example, if your friend is transitioning from female to male, and you used to say something like, let's have a girls' night, or tonight is our girls' night together, might not want to say that anymore. Instead, just maybe like a movie night or something, but just being aware of the gendered situations you place people in as well. Pronouns. It's a big one. You know, he, him, his, she, her, hers, and also they, them, theirs. To people who question the validity of the singular they as a pronoun, it is perfectly valid. It's been used by as far back as Chaucer. I think it's the earliest recording of anyone using they as a pronoun for a person. So to anyone out there saying, well, it's not grammatically correct, it is. Shut up. And it's really comfortable for some people. But really, like everything else, it's just practice makes perfect. Just get used to using it. And if you mess up, that's fine. Like if your friend now identifies using female pronouns and you accidentally use a male pronoun, like he, just step back and say she, and keep going with the conversation. You don't have to freak out, call attention to be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry I used the wrong pronoun for you in front of everyone, because that's embarrassing for that person, because suddenly, you know, like they have to deal with the fact that their gender is now being put out in the open for everyone to look at. Later on, if you want to pull them inside and be like, I'm so sorry, I used the wrong pronoun for you, it was a slip-up, I want to apologize. That's fine too. Also, another thing you can do is if you see a friend using the wrong pronoun and maybe it isn't clicking with them, they aren't aware, you can just sort of step in, like if your friend says, using the wrong pronoun, he, again, for a person who now identifies as female, yeah, he picked up that video game last night and he is so good at it already. You can say like, yeah, she's really good at that video game, I'm happy she picked it up. Just sort of retorting to their misgendering of a person by using the correct gender pronoun. Names. Names are a big one, and you know, oftentimes if your friend was Samantha and is now going by Sam, that can be easier because that switches, you know, it's the same letter, it's just shortening it by a bit. But if it's going from like Chloe to Victor, that can be a little bit different because that's a completely different name. But for allies of trans people, what you have to remember is that that name is going to be important to that person, so any attempt to use that name can really be validating, and that can be like overusing the name too. For example, we don't often use a friend's name a lot in conversation with them, but if your friend has just come out, it might pay off to actually use that name a bit more than you would normally. Say if you don't usually refer to your friend who's formerly Chloe by that name, now they're Victor, say Victor a lot. Hey Victor, how's it going, Victor? Just to get used to it, and you can do this with pronouns too, to get used to it because that's practice, but also to validate that person, because when they first come out, hearing those pronouns and hearing that name as often as possible are really going to feel great. Another thing that might come into play is people will say, well, it's really hard for me to use that name or pronoun for you. Is it really hard though? You can understand when people mess up. It does take practice. That's an effort you as a friend, a partner, a parent have to make your transgender friend, child, partner feel comfortable. We do this for people all the time. Say if people don't like a certain word being used, aren't comfortable with that, we try to stay away from using that word because it makes your friend feel uncomfortable. If I were to say to one of my friends, I don't like to go swimming, it makes me uncomfortable, I'm afraid I'm going to drown, would it be too great if they then pushed me in a pool? Probably not. Or if they then only went swimming as an activity? That's kind of a slap in the face. With name, pronoun, etc. for transgender people, the important thing again is making that effort. If you were to change the pronouns and name you're using for a person every time you talk to them, is it really doing 20 push-ups every time you have to say that new name or new pronoun? No. It's just a matter of adjusting your way of speaking. Washrooms are huge for transgender people because they're so uncomfortable. I know that there's now an app that you can put on your phone that'll find gender-neutral bathrooms for you in an area, which is really cool. But if you're the friend or, again, partner, etc., if you're an ally to a transgender person, be on the lookout for those bathrooms yourself. Or if your friend, say, wants to use the women's washroom and they're M to F, and you happen to be female, therefore you can have access to that washroom as well, go in with them. Be a bathroom buddy. Bathroom buddies, super great if you're out in public and your friend, say, isn't quite comfortable yet with using a washroom that's more applicable to their felt gender. If they're sort of had just come out or just starting to transition or just getting used to things, go in with them and just sort of be like a bathroom friend. You guys can talk while somebody pees. It's going to be awkward, whatever. But just having that support in the bathroom can be super helpful, especially if something does pop up. For partners of transgender people, it can be super difficult in terms of intimate spaces and intimate relationships to get used to. It might not be a partner's new idea of their body and comfort with their body, but what might now be their vocalization of how they're comfortable with their body. It could have been uncomfortable with them for a long time, and you can't really think about that because you didn't know, they didn't tell you. So what's important is to sort of communicate now and sit down and talk about, well, what's comfortable? Can we go over sort of each other's comfort zones, so make sure that you include your own comfort zones as well in terms of where you like to be touched, where is a no-go zone, what is comfortable language to be used around your body, what feels good, what doesn't. And this may be a learning process, you know, in the throes of intimacy, you can have these kinds of conversations as well. You know, sex isn't that wordless, you know, everyone knows exactly what to do and everything goes perfectly image and experience that it is in the movies. Sex is a learning process. So if you're having sex with a partner and it doesn't feel or look like it does on TV, that's because that was scripted and this is real life. It's about being comfortable with each other and with the experience and both of you enjoying that experience. No one should really be dreading what's going on because their boundaries are being crossed, because this is what men are supposed to like, this is what women are supposed to like, this is what sex is supposed to be. Sex is different things for different people. Some people don't even like to have sex, and it doesn't mean that they don't like you, it's just what doesn't appeal to them. And then we get into the whole section of questions not to ask. So don't ask about a person's real name, or their birth name, or their original name. This can be something that people are just genuinely interested in. Like, names are interesting to us, and the way names change are interesting to us. People's pasts are interesting to us. Many transgender people, their birth name, their legal name, their formal legal name, etc., their past name, can only be used in one way, and that's in the form of blackmail, or to make them feel bad about themselves. You know, when that name pops up, I can feel bad for a day if somebody calls me that name. When a name has changed in the process of transition, so one is, you know, harkens back to an identity or a pseudo-identity that might not have been so pleasant for that person to experience, that name can hold a lot of negative power. So you don't need to know, don't ask. Just call them by the name that they introduce themselves as, or go by now. Same with the question of, have you had surgery? Yeah, that's not really a relevant question anyway, because there is no surgery. Some trans people choose not to have surgery. Surgery isn't part and parcel of being transgender. Surgery is many different things to many different people. Surgery might be like, say, top surgery, or, you know, a phalloplasty, a metoidioplasty, a vaginoplasty, hysterectomy, oophorectomy, facial feminization surgery. There are lots of different surgeries for different transgender people. It's also important to, although it's information that people like to tell others because it is prized information. It's like if you know something really interesting about someone, you want to share it because it gets people talking. Someone being transgender is one of these issues, unfortunately, but you have to remember that it is not your place to tell other people, regardless of how close you are to that person. If somebody asks you to advocate for them and say, hey, can you tell so-and-so that I'm trans because I don't feel comfortable doing that, then it's fine. But don't disclose on behalf of other people. If you're the best friend of a person who's trans and they just came out, it is not your responsibility, nor is it your right, to go tell all of their other friends that they're trans. You can sit down and be like, hey, I can help you with this if you would like help, but it's all up to you. Ball's in your court, it's your identity, and that's important to remember. As an ally, you don't want to be speaking for a person, you want to help that person to speak for themselves, and that's an important distinction to make in terms of allyship. It should be said that in terms of changing the way you refer to people when they do come out, it's important to not lose sight of the fact that you don't want to change the way you treat the person as a person. They did not suddenly become transgender. They have come out as transgender. And this is an external change that needs to happen, not an internal change that has happened. You know, they've probably been feeling this way for a very long time. So you don't want to suddenly treat them like they are an alien or a different person. And this can be a difficult balance to keep, because a lot of it is changing language, changing the ways you refer to someone, not changing the way you treat someone, not keeping them at arm's length. And I know that a lot of the times when people do keep others at arm's length when they come out, it's because they don't know how to approach the situation, or they're scared they're going to say the wrong thing. And what's important to remember is that your friend, partner, etc., child needs you to be they came out to you, so they need you to be supportive. What they need least of all is to feel alienated or feel different or feel that you're treating them differently now that they've come out.